The first time I unlocked someone else's front door with my own key, I thought I had made the biggest mistake of my life. The strange part wasn't that the key fit. The strange part was that the house looked exactly like mine, except every clock inside had stopped at 8:17. It all started with a tiny brass key that arrived in my mailbox without a note, without a return address, and without any explanation. I lived alone in a quiet neighborhood where nothing unexpected ever happened. Bills arrived on time. Neighbors waved from their driveways. Dogs barked at the same hour every evening. So when I found a key that belonged to nothing I owned, curiosity won. For 3 days I carried it in my pocket. I tried my apartment door, my storage locker, my old bicycle lock, even the mailbox. Fit nowhere. I almost threw it away. Then on my walk home from work, I noticed a narrow street I didn't remember seeing before. That made no sense because I'd lived in the area for nearly 6 years. The road was lined with identical blue houses, each with white fences and perfectly trimmed hedges. Everything looked strangely untouched, as though nobody had lived there for decades. At the end of the street stood a single house with its porch light glowing despite the afternoon sun. Something about it pulled me closer. I reached the front door without really deciding to. Almost jokingly, I slipped the brass key into the lock. It turned. The door opened with a slow creak. The smell hit me first. Fresh coffee, lemon soap, old books. It smelled like home. Inside, every room matched my own apartment in impossible detail. The same crooked bookshelf. The same cracked coffee mug on the kitchen counter. Even the tiny scratch on the dining table was there. Only one thing was different. Every clock had stopped at exactly 8:17. The wall clock. The microwave. The oven timer. Even an old wristwatch sitting inside a drawer pointed to the same frozen minute. I called out, expecting someone to answer. Nothing. The silence felt heavy enough to hear. As I searched the rooms, I found photographs covering the hallway wall. Every picture showed me birthday parties I remembered, graduation, vacations, family dinners. Except there were extra people standing beside me. A little girl with curly hair. A woman wearing a green sweater. I recognized neither of them. Yet in every photograph we looked unmistakably like a family. I laughed nervously, convincing myself someone had staged an elaborate prank. Then I reached the bedroom. On the bedside table rested a leather notebook. The first page read, "If you're reading this, you arrived later than I hoped." The handwriting was mine. I sat down and kept reading. I know exactly what you're thinking. You're wondering who made these photos, how your key fits this house, and why every clock stopped. I asked those same questions years ago. A cold wave ran through me. I should warn you. Do not stay until 8:17. I looked at my phone. 6:42 p.m. Plenty of time, I thought. The notebook explained that this house appeared only for people carrying the brass key. It existed somewhere between choices, collecting the lives people never lived. The photographs weren't fake. They were possibilities. In one life I'd married. In another I'd moved overseas. In another, I'd become a musician instead of an accountant. Every room contained pieces of abandoned futures. The final pages became frantic. I stayed too long because I wanted answers. The house doesn't trap bodies. It traps decisions. If you hear footsteps upstairs after 8:17, leave immediately. I closed the notebook. There wasn't supposed to be an upstairs. My apartment had only one floor. This house suddenly had a staircase. I was certain it hadn't been there before. A faint thump echoed above. Another. Then slow footsteps. 1, 2, 3. They weren't coming down. They were circling. Like someone searching. I backed toward the front door. My phone buzzed. 8:16. The porch light outside flickered. The air inside the house grew strangely warm. Every stopped clock began ticking. Not from the correct time. From 8:16. 1 minute remained. The footsteps stopped. Silence returned. Then a voice floated from upstairs. It sounded exactly like mine. It quietly said, "Please don't leave." I froze. The voice continued, "If you walk out now, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what could have happened." Every regret I'd ever buried suddenly rushed back. Jobs I hadn't accepted. Cities I'd never visited. People I'd been too afraid to love. The house knew every unfinished thought I'd ever had. I stayed, the voice said. And I finally found certainty. For one dangerous second, certainty sounded wonderful. No more wondering. No more what if. No more imagining different endings. Then I remembered something from the notebook. The handwriting became shakier near the end. The last complete sentence read, "If you're hearing my voice, then I've already failed." The realization struck me so hard I nearly laughed. The person upstairs wasn't guiding me. He was warning me. He had once believed the same promise. I grabbed the doorknob. Behind me, footsteps exploded across the ceiling. Not walking anymore. Running. The clocks all struck 8:17. The front door became impossibly heavy. The voice screamed, "Don't make my mistake." I threw my weight against the door. It burst open. I stumbled onto the porch. The moment both feet touched the sidewalk, every sound vanished. The house disappeared. The blue street disappeared. I found myself standing beside the ordinary road I walked every evening. Cars passed normally. Children rode bicycles. No mysterious neighborhood. No glowing porch light. Only the brass key remained in my hand. I never told anyone. Who would believe me? Months passed. Life slowly returned to normal. I started saying yes more often. I traveled. Changed careers. Called people I'd been avoiding. Not because I knew those were the right choices. Because I finally understood that uncertainty wasn't the enemy. It was proof that life was still moving. Last week, while cleaning out my desk, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The brass key was gone. In its place lay a small envelope addressed in my own handwriting. Inside was another key. This one was silver. And taped to it was a note containing only 5 words. This time, don't come alone.